Good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session for Tuesday, April 27th, 2021, 9:05 a.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. We have Vice Chair Commissioner Gary Edwards and Commissioner Carolina Mejia, as well as County Manager Miro Chavez and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell. Public can follow along on our county YouTube channel or through a conference line at 360-252-9020. PIN is 1234. We're going to start with our standing COVID-19 update this morning. Item 1 on this morning's agenda, and I see Director of Public Health and Social Services, Shelley Slaughter.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
It is day 447 of Thurston County's COVID response. Statewide, there have been 397,417 cases of COVID-19 and 5,450 Washingtonians have lost their lives. This includes 8,609 confirmed cases in Thurston County since this pandemic began, with 78 Thurston County residents dying of COVID-19. We've had 230 new cases in the last week. We are very concerned about this rise in cases. Our case rate on the governor's risk assessment dashboard is currently 164.4 per 100,000 over the last 2 weeks. There have been 491 Thurston County residents hospitalized to date, and 13 new hospitalizations occurring in the last week. 86.9% of our acute hospital beds in the region are currently occupied, with 10.9% of those beds occupied by COVID-19 patients and 15.6% of our ICU beds occupied by COVID patients. In our Thurston County hospitals, there are currently 29 people with COVID-19 hospitalized, and 7 of those are on ventilators. I share this because I think it is very important to highlight that COVID-19 is very serious and still causing hospitalizations and deaths in our community. Our test positivity rate has continued to rise as well, with 3.8% positivity. This is an indicator of growing community transmission, and I really want to encourage people to not let your guard down and continue to wear a mask, physically distance, and socialize responsibly. We're seeing increased cases in 20 to 29-year-olds and people who are gathering in social situations. We also want to strongly encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Getting vaccinated is one of the best tools that we have to ending this pandemic and being able to return to life as we once knew it before in the future. In terms of vaccinations, 193,877 doses have been administered in Thurston County. 110,000 Thurston County residents have initiated vaccine. That's 39.24%. 77,000 people are fully vaccinated, and that represents 28.26% of our population. We want to get to the 70 to 80% mark, and so we still have a long ways to go. We're starting to see our vaccine appointments are not filling as fast as they once did. I want to share that we have a first dose Pfizer clinic at South Puget Sound Community College today, and we still have appointments available. We really need people to get vaccinated. We have safe and effective vaccines and strongly encourage people to take advantage of that opportunity, whether that is through Thurston County Public Health or another vaccine provider. And people looking for vaccines can look on Vaccine Locator or the Thurston County Public Health and Social Services website. We're also happy to help assist anyone that needs help in accessing a vaccine or appointment by calling 360-867-2610. We are also offering mobile and pop-up clinics throughout the community coming soon. We have several planned in the upcoming weeks, including vaccine clinics at First United Methodist Church, Good Shepherd Church, New Life Baptist Church, Rochester High School, as well as offering vaccines to people who cannot leave their homes. And you can also access door-to-door vaccine by calling that 360-867-2610. And with that, I will pause for questions.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions for Shelley?
Yes. So how do people get in touch with you if they're homebound? Do they just call the 360-867 number, or how can we get that information out there to those people?
Yes, so we have received information from people that are homebound that are still needing vaccine. We have reached many of those people, but we still have many more that we know need our help. So we are trying to reach out by calling. So all of the people that we have phone numbers for, and also sharing publicly that if you are in this situation or you have a family member or loved one that is, to please call us at 360-867-2610 and we'll arrange for vaccine.
Thank you. Another one of my questions is, I saw an article in relation to people coming in for their first vaccine, but not coming in for their second. Are we seeing that here in Thurston as well?
Yes, we are. And that is a concern for us as well. In order to be fully vaccinated, we really need people to come and get that second dose if you are receiving Pfizer or Moderna. If it is Pfizer, then after 3 weeks, people should be getting their second dose. If it's Moderna, they should be getting their vaccine 4 weeks after their vaccine. There are many providers that if you're not able to get back to the same provider, you can get your second dose elsewhere, but we strongly encourage people to arrange for that appointment when they get their first dose. If people are getting their first dose with us at Thurston County Public Health and Social Services, then you will get an email reminder to schedule your second dose. And also hang on to those vaccine cards, look at those vaccine cards after you receive your first dose. They indicate the earliest date you should seek your second dose, but really important to follow up, get those second doses.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards.
Shelley, because we're a regional hospital, could you repeat those numbers again and how many of those I did not hear you say how many were from Thurston County that were hospitalized.
Okay, let me repeat the hospitalization data that I have. To date, there have been 491 Thurston County residents that have been hospitalized. Currently, 86.9% of total beds occupied, 10.9% of with COVID patients, 10.9% with COVID patients, 15.6% of our ICU beds with COVID patients, and then in our Thurston County Hospital, 29 people are currently hospitalized, with 13 new hospitalizations in the last week. And in terms of those particular patients and whether they are Thurston County residents or whether they are from neighboring counties, I do not have that patient level information at this time.
But that is one of the governor's matrix numbers, isn't it? How many from Thurston County are hospitalized?
The measure that I believe that you're referring to, Commissioner Edwards, are the two metrics that are used to determine whether a county may stay in phase 3 or move back to phase 2. And those metrics are case rate numbers. We're looking to be below 200, and currently we're at 164.4. So if we get to 200, that would be a fail point. And we also have to be at less than 15 new hospitalizations in the previous 7 days. It does not take into consideration whether those residents where those people are from. It is only for those hospitals in Thurston County. If we have more than 15 new patients admitted with COVID, then that would be a secondary fail point. We're getting close to that.
And we need to fail 2 of those metrics, is that right?
Yeah.
That's right.
But I guess I don't understand if somebody from, I don't know, Clark County decides they're up here and gets admitted. That doesn't make any sense that we would get criticized or rolled back to phase 2, for an example. So something's wrong with that formula. And I don't exactly know what it is, but we need to have those numbers that are strictly for Thurston County. Because now the governor is going by counties rather than regions.
Yeah,
so
it's really
what kind
about
of an
that.
answer do we have for that?
It's really about your local hospital capacity. And when our local hospital capacity starts to go up with COVID patients, then that becomes a problem for the whole community, regardless of where those patients are from. In our healthcare region, there are oftentimes people transferred to different hospitals. There's Thurston County residents that are, served in Pierce and King County hospitals, and vice versa. But really, our local capacity, hospital capacity in Thurston County, regardless of where those patients live, counts in terms of whether we stay in phase or not if we get above that 15 mark.
You know, eventually people aren't going to follow the rules if they don't think they're fair. I'll just point that out. So I really do wonder about the difference between fully vaccinated and those that are not coming back for their second shot. So if you're fully vaccinated, you're 100% covered, or you're 99% covered that you're not going to get it. If you only have one of those shots, what are you, 60% covered? I remember some numbers initially that broke that down. Do you have those?
It is different for Moderna and Pfizer, and I don't have those percentages right in front of me. I can get that for you pretty easily. There is some protection, and it's higher for Pfizer. I know, if you only receive your first dose and not your second dose. But again, you cannot be considered complete your series if you don't get if you do not get that second dose. And that is not as effective at protecting you from contracting COVID-19 and getting seriously ill in the future if you don't get that second dose. It's also a requirement for things like travel, and maybe for other things going forward. So that's yet another reason why it's really important to get the second dose.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Shelley, you answered one of my questions. I just had one other one. It was Dr. A's letter. She had a paragraph about travel, and it talked about limiting non-essential travel if you were, particularly if you were unvaccinated, and if you had to engage in non-essential travel if you were unvaccinated, then there would be a need to have a test on both sides of that, and a short, not 14 days, I can't remember exactly, but a quarantine component. So I guess my question is, she doesn't in her letter define non-essential travel. At the early days of the pandemic, air travel was shut down. Like, there wasn't even a question of that. We were just talking about driving even driving to Tacoma for something, a store. And I guess I'm wondering, are we still, for those folks that are unvaccinated and need to go, let's say, out of county, they're not going to go overnight to a hotel, they're not going to go on an airplane, but they might drive to Mount Rainier and go on a hike, or they might go to Tacoma to a restaurant, or Seattle if it was open, or a particular store that only exists there. Is that considered non-essential travel and they're subject to these restrictions that Dr. A would have recommended?
No, those kind of examples that you gave are not what Dr. A was trying to address in her letter. The intent more behind that were people who are traveling out of state or traveling by airplane to take vacations and things like that. We know that a lot of people are excited about warmer weather. And spring break for kids in school was a couple weeks ago, and a lot of people were engaging in travel, and so that's really where there's concern. There's still a lot of variants that are circulating globally, and many places in our country are experiencing increased COVID transmission rates, and so it's too soon to be taking vacations for fun quite yet. So we really want to have people carefully consider the risks that they are taking and the quarantine that they have to take if they do make that choice to travel.
Okay, I appreciate it. I thought that was the case, but it wasn't clear. And, again, a year ago, we were seeing non-essential travel meant like driving out of Thurston County. So I wanted to make that distinction clear for folks. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you.
Next is homeless strategies update. And there we go, Keely Marino.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. Mostly what I have for you today is to report on our rental assistance. So we have our first report on our rental assistance program through the Community Action Council of Lewis Mason Thurston. And so I'm going to report that to you. They started taking applications and opening up their calendar for appointments on the 7th of April. And since that point, they have 123 households that are 100% approved, moving forward, getting checks cut. They have 140 applications in process. They have 967 appointments already set since April 7th. The total amount approved is $708,000 for rent assistance and around $5,500 for utility assistance at this time. They have contacted everyone that was on their wait list. This is all funds. So this is $1,406. This is ERAP that was remaining, and also the TRAP dollars. So just they are going full steam. And Community Youth Services is also in operation. I don't have those numbers. I should have those by next week. I can report on those for the youth and young adults between ages 18 and 24. I'm really excited that they're just moving so quickly through those dollars and serving households in need in our community. Other than that, our Regional Housing Council meeting is this week. It's on Wednesday now, moving forward on the fourth Wednesday of every month, starting at 4 p.m. If you Google Regional Housing Council, Board of County Commissioners, or Regional Housing Council, Thurston County, the website pops right up. You can sign up for public comment. You can attend. It is a public meeting. So just wanted to make sure that folks were aware that the time for that meeting has changed. And other than that, that's what I've got for you this week.
Questions for Keely?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. Keely, my question just is about do you have a sense of I'm wondering about the end of eviction moratorium versus rental assistance. I read yesterday, it's been really hard to keep track of bills and all the flurry that happens at the tail end, but I think I heard that there was a bill that basically mandated that the eviction moratorium end at the end of June. And I know our rental assistance bridges across that, but do you think do you think that the resources are adequate to sort of address what we'd be facing then in July in terms of people that are getting the assistance they need and therefore we're not going to see a flood of evictions and, you know, folks living in their housing because of the resources that have been put toward rental assistance from federal, state, local sources? Or is there still a gap there that we really should be braced for?
There is absolutely a gap. Regardless, in my opinion, of when the moratorium ends, whether it be the state or the federal eviction moratorium, there will be a gap. I attended a meeting at the end of 2020 with a projection about what it would cost Washington State to keep people in their housing across statewide, and it was over $10 million per month. So I think that we have so many resources coming into the community for rental assistance, tens of millions of dollars, and still there will be a gap. However, there is legislation that did pass, which is essentially another document recording fee for rental assistance ongoing, as far as I understand. So there will be an ongoing resource for rental assistance beyond, I don't know if there's a sunset on that, but I know that it did pass. I don't know the number offhand. We talked about it this morning and I've forgotten, but I can find that for you. So yes, short version, of course, there will be a sizable gap.
Thank you. Ramiro.
Hey, Keely, by any chance do you have contact information for the Community Action Council as to how the public in need can reach out, either an online or a phone number?
Absolutely. I see Elisa Sparkman is on this call and is working on the rent assistance program, doing all of the communication for it, and is popping things into the chat. So we have a rent assistance page on Thurston County's Public Health and Social Services. And if you want to make a phone call, you can call 360-438-1100, press 8 for housing. And they're open Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also visit their website to look at their programs and kind of pre-screen yourself to see if you might be eligible. And that is www.caclm, as in Mary, t.org. We can put that in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keely. Okay, we're going to move to item 3, which is a review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for this afternoon's 2 p.m. board meeting. That meeting will be called to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Mejia. Consideration of the agenda and board meeting minutes from April 20th. We have 2 presentations scheduled. The first being a proclamation for Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and a second being a proclamation for Bicycle Commuter Month. County Manager, do we need to address these? Or?
Thank you, Commissioners. We're going to have members of the of the committee attending the proclamation for Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I believe our proclamation has been circulated for your review, and if you have any additional comments, please let us know. And at this point, I don't know the names of the members of the community, but certainly you will have the opportunity to highlight this particular proclamation in front of them. And also our own Chris Hawkins is going to be here for you to consider the proclamation of Bicycle Commuter Month. If there's anybody who can probably be the model of Bicycle Commuter Month, is Chris Hawkins. He bicycles just about everywhere. I'm just curious, Chris is here. How many miles you put in a month, Chris, by any chance?
Oh, on average, between 250 and 300 miles.
Wow. There you go. Do you like to add anything on this proclamation, Chris?
Only that this has been a great event for our community for a few decades now, and the event is put on, Bicycle Commuter Challenge is put on by Intercity Transit, and so Duncan Green of Intercity Transit will be attending and here to accept the proclamation this afternoon. He's the coordinator of the Bicycle Commuter Challenge, and It's actually kind of a community event far beyond bicycle commuting. It's kind of about bicycle transportation in general, including bicycling to school, bicycling for errands, and they allow, basically tracking your miles on anything you do on a bicycle. So it's recreational as well, which is a great connection to our Thurston Thrive strategy around increasing physical activity in the community, and also connection to our climate change mitigation efforts, because active transportation is one of those solutions for reducing our carbon emissions.
Anything for Chris? Thank you, Chris. See you this afternoon. All right. Okay, then it would be opportunity for the public to address the board.
I don't have any particular heads up on this item, Commissioner.
Okay. County manager update.
I don't have any outstanding items as part of my report.
Okay. Consent agenda is short. 3A, auditor voucher list. Any questions from the board on items related to the vouchers?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll go to item 4. Set a public hearing, renewal interim emergency housing ordinance. This is under CPED. Leah Davis slated for it. County manager. What is this about?
Thank you, Commissioner. For your consideration is for you to set a public hearing for May 25th, 2021 at 3 in the afternoon in this building, in this room. And this is related for the interim regulations that will expire on June 9, 2021. This item is following up the direction of the majority of the board for you to consider this item. And not to be confused with the code, the docket item that you approved this past year for staff to consider permanent as opposed to this interim regulation. Those two different paths in here. This is just for you to receive public testimony and for you to consider extending this interim regulation until December 9, 2021. Yeah.
Okay, well, having seen this 3 or 4 times, we're pretty familiar with it. Commissioner Mejia, any questions for Leah?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Throughout that, the proclamation, I found where it used the word rural twice, but really not in a setting that this was going to take place in rural America. And I'm just wondering why the verbiage in the announcement doesn't say placement in unincorporated Thurston County or something. I think it leaves out a point that the public seems to be very interested in, that this ordinance allows for placement in the unincorporated area of Thurston County. That's all.
Okay. I could change the wording to say unincorporated rather than rural.
I just think it would tell a better example of what we're really referring to here. But I don't know how my seatmates feel about it. So I just bring that up as an issue. Thank you. What, Chair, do you mind if it says unincorporated Thurston County in there somewhere?
I don't think I do. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I don't either, but I have read it. And that was the one issue I thought that might be more of an explanation that way.
Go ahead, County Manager.
Based on what I'm hearing, suggestion on the description of the item, set a public hearing renewal interim emergency housing ordinance in unincorporated areas of the county. Will that address your concern, Commissioner?
Yes, I believe that would be very informative.
So let's change the description for this afternoon to add that.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Then we'll go on to 4B. A reappointment to Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Yeah, this item has been discussed by the board, and I believe usually this item of appointments to any committee or board is under a consent agenda, which is approved by the board as a group, as a consent. And so the board members would like to exercise your individual votes related to this particular appointment this afternoon. That will be for Mr. Richard Monkmeyer to the Agriculture Advisory Committee as a farmer member, and the term goes from May 12, 2021 to May 12, 2023, if the board approves this appointment.
Okay, so I guess the question is whether my seatmates would like to keep this on this afternoon's agenda. Commissioner here.
I've been very busy on this matter. I've been making calls. I wasn't able to finish all my calls, but I think I'm ready to proceed with it.
I'm ready to proceed too, please.
Okay, then we will. 4B will be on this afternoon's agenda, and then we'll go to, it should be item 5. It says 7. County manager. Standing items 7A. Hopefully it'll be changed to 5A. Commissioners will report on board work sessions and combined committee meetings. County manager will review combined schedule, and the meeting will adjourn. Pretty light agenda for this afternoon.
Yeah, pretty light.
Any questions before we move on to May 4th? Okay. Okay, then we'll move to item 4 on today's work session, which is a review of next Tuesday's board meeting, May 4th, 2 p.m., meeting called to order. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Edwards. Consideration of agenda and board meeting minutes from today's meeting. Again, two presentations, 2 proclamations. First one is Emergency Services Proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. For your consideration is to proclaim the week of May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Service Week in Thurston County. It will give the board the opportunity to recognize the dedication, effort, and loyalty of the emergency medical service personnel. They're there to save lives to the residents of Thurston County. Kurt Harding is here, the Emergency Services Director. If you have any questions related to this proclamation.
Commissioner Mejia, any questions for Kurt?
No, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to make a comment and compliment Kurt on last night's review from an emergency management perspective. I think we had close to 70 people that signed up around Thurston County, either elected officials or executives in different positions in all of our government entities. And they did a great job just presenting a refresher and information that went along with emergency management. So just want to compliment you and your staff, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I will tell you, it was the Emergency Management Council of Thurston County, a team effort, but thank you very much. On behalf of them, I'll say thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it. We'll see you next Tuesday for that proclamation. The second proclamation proposed is Proclamation for Military Appreciation Month.
Yes, this is a proclamation the board has considered in the past few years, and for your consideration is to declare May 2021 Military Appreciation Month in Thurston County. And this is a proclamation considering that we have significant presence from the JBLM personnel that lives here in Thurston County. And if you're okay with this item, we'll try to find somebody who can come and be present on this proclamation.
Any questions, comments from the board?
No, other than I'm very enthused about doing this and hope you can find somebody from the veterans community to come forward.
Okay, Commissioner Mejia?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update. Anything there, Ramiro?
Not at this point, sir.
Okay. Then consent items, again, is just the voucher list, which we'll have a chance to review prior to next week's meeting. And that'll take us to item 4. Under Commissioners, call for sealed bids for the official county newspaper for 2020-2021.
Yeah, Commissioners, every year we have to issue a call for sealed bids to secure the services with the official county newspaper. Currently, the official county newspaper is the Olympian, and we need to go through every year just to make sure all the news outfits have the opportunity to provide the services. This is a little bit different. This is not necessarily related to who provides the low bid. As some of the 2 members, Commissioner Mesa and Commissioner Edwards, have participated in the past, this is more about coverage. Who can provide the water coverage for the citizens? So with your concurrence, this item will be to allow us to secure the sealed bids and see, and when we receive those bids, we'll bring back to you the results of that, and then I will ask you as to how you'd like to move.
Commissioner Mejia?
So how does this, I mean, how does it work? Like, is it just someone that we send specific stories to, and that's who we...
We have the requirements to post a special meeting notice, specifically required by law, where we need to post public hearings, special meetings. So there is a requirement that we need to post that on an official county newspaper. So there's not necessarily for the any stories that goes to the Olympian in this case. It's just those special meeting notices that we are required by law to post in the county newspaper.
So what do the sealed bids, what does that entail? Is it, I mean, are they, do we pay them for that? I'm just trying to get a picture.
Okay, so the proposal is for us to authorize to send out and call for bids for any news outfit to provide us a bid as to how they want to meet the requirements of special meeting notices. And then the result of that we'll bring to the board to have a discussion. And my comment on when I introduced this item is we not necessarily go with the low bidder, meaning the one who provides the less cost. In the past, the board has taken an action to go with the wider range of a newspaper just to make sure that we capture as many citizens in Thurston County as we can. And that is why the Olympian in the last few years has been part of that process. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Edwards, anything on this item?
No, sir.
Okay.
I would like to mention this though, just for the sake of clarity. It's not just special notices. It's any legal notice must be posted to our legal paper according to state law. So special notices about meetings, public hearings, bids on projects that the county is running. So an RFP has to go is a legal notice in our legal paper. So it's any legal notice or announcement must go in this newspaper.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Robin. Let's move to item 5, Public Health and Social Services, interagency agreement with the Department of Ecology.
For your consideration, Commissioners, this is to authorize an agreement between the Thurston County and the Department of Ecology to receive $25,000. And this is specifically to address educational outreach for changing Washington residents' behavior that will reduce the harmful flame retardant chemicals, especially, and I'm going to butcher the scientific name, is the polybromide Diphylid ethers. I have no idea if I did it right or not, but that's a specific chemical. There is an opportunity to engage in an education campaign that really is going to be bringing awareness of the use of this chemical. I believe with Chris Hawkins we have here. Can read somebody else from public health.
Yeah, we also have Elisa Sparkman here. Elisa is the Healthy Homes Program Manager, Education Outreach Specialist, who brought this opportunity to our department, and she's available to answer questions if you have any about the program. But the gist of it is to provide some education to clients who are coming to us looking for healthy homes services, and provide a HEPA vacuum to those folks that come to us in the Healthy Homes program, along with that educational material, to reduce their exposure to flame retardant chemicals, as well as to reduce the release of those chemicals into our environment, particularly aimed at protecting Puget Sound and other aquatic systems, because those PBDs can end up in those aquatic systems and cause a lot of environmental problems.
Questions for Elisa or Chris? Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Elisa, for bringing that program forward for this grant opportunity. Item 6 is Public Works, and the item is request for proposals for materials testing and inspection services on-call consultant contract.
Thank you, Commissioners, for your consideration is authorizing the department to secure bids to provide services and material testing and inspection services. And there is a specific requirements within the operations that Public Works does when we construct and build infrastructure. They has to pass minimum testing standards in all the materials. That includes concrete, asphalt, anything, to give an example. So this particular proposal for your consideration is to secure the services of a consultant that will help us go through that testing process. This testing services requires a specific certification and a specific knowledge that we do not have in Thurston County. And that is the reason as to why we come to you to authorize the issuance of a bid to secure those services. Steve Bricker from Public Works is here. If you have any questions, I'll elaborate even more on what I just stated. Steve?
Good morning, Commissioners. Steve Bricker, Construction Manager for Public Works. Yeah, we need to do this RFP. It's going to help save us money having an on-call consultant for testing versus trying to deal with the testing individually for each contract, one at a time. Do you have any questions?
Questions, Commissioners?
No, sir, I do not.
No, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve. I do not either. Then we stick with Public Works for 6B, resolution and call for sealed bids for 2021 overlay project and for Rainier Road overlay project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners, for your considerations to secure the services of a contractor to implement the 2021 overlay program project. This particular proposal also includes a portion of Rainier Road, which is in the city of Rainier. And this is a good partnership with the city of Rainier, since they can benefit from the economy of scale of the bidding process. So you heard a couple of weeks ago from the county engineer that this year is going to be a robust overlay program. To the extent that right now we consider to have a $5.2 million overlay program, which is significantly higher than we have done in the past. And also, in addition to that, as stated, the city of Rainier will have $144,000 to do their overlay on one of their streets in downtown. This particular proposal could probably get us to the point of overlaying close to 25 miles of road. on roads located in the southeast and southwest quadrant of the county. That will include the Vale Road, and also the Vale Cutoff Southeast, Churchill Road, and Prather Road, as well as the Michigan Hill Southwest. Steve Bricker is here to elaborate on this particular item and answer any questions the board may have.
All right, yeah, we have kind of a bundle of a lot of roads here that we've been wanting to take care of for 5-6 years, some of them. This is expensive work, and we're excited to kind of do a larger overlay contract than we typically would do in the past and take care of some of these roads that really need some work. Do you have any questions?
Commissioner Mejia?
No, sir.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay.
Maybe just additional information you may ask. I failed to mention the $5.2 million are coming from the County Road Fund and the real estate excise tax. And as you may recall, the board allocated real estate excise tax to REIT 2 an overlay program, and that's why you see the larger $5.2 million on this year's program.
Thank you, Romero. Okay, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Item 6C, also Public Works, is a resolution for temporary closure of Gate Road Southwest between 152nd Avenue Southwest and Hunter Road Southwest.
Yeah, this particular request is related to the Gate Road fish barrier removal project, which is crosses the Maima Creek as part of this closure. Without getting too much into the specifics, the fish barrier work has to be constructed in what we call within the fish window. And the fish window is established between July 16 to September 15 of 2021 this year. By allowing the closure of this particular roadway, it will help us to help the department to go ahead and implement this construction project within the fish window. The proposal before you is for a closure of this particular segment of Gate Road between 152nd to Hunter Road for 1 week. If the board approves this particular closure, access to the local property owners will continue to be part of this, so we will not be stopping access to local residents. However, as part of this closure, the department is proposing to have a 10-mile detour, which is probably going to take about 13 minutes. And again, this is going to be for, I believe, a week, 7 days. Is that correct? So we have Ryan Blazer from Public Works. They can elaborate on this particular proposal.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. Ryan Blazer with the Department of Public Works. As was already said, that was a great description. We have the same approach was taken last year in 2020 on some other fish barrier enhancement projects. And with a much higher daily traffic count last year, our daily traffic count this year is about 500. And there were no complaints. And then last year it went very smoothly with minimal impacts to surrounding habitats and residents. Are there any questions for us?
Commissioners, any questions on the proposed closure?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Straightforward, thank you, Ryan. Marcus.
One more item, Commissioner, before you move on to the next item. They may not be included on this agenda, but we're going to be working. We had some information that perhaps the ordinance related to the Medic 1 ballot measure may need to have some revisions. So we're going to have a meeting tomorrow just to make sure if, in fact, those revisions are needed. So if, in fact, during that conversation that is the case, you will see that as part of your agenda this coming week to revise. I checked with, if that is the case, I checked with our prosecuting attorneys. You do not need to have another public hearing because the gist of the public hearing when you held this, it was the intent for you to put this in front of the voters on the August 3rd, 2021 special election. That continues to be the case. It was just perhaps a technical amendment, so changes to the language. you might consider next week. So I just want to give you a heads up. You may or may not see this item on your agenda, but I want to give you a heads up.
Perfect. Thank you, Romero. Okay, then item 7 is obviously the standing items where the commissioners will report on, give a report, and the county manager will review our schedule. And that will close out our May 4th meeting. Bringing us to item 5 on this morning's agenda, proclamations and awards. And we have that list from the clerk of the board. Amy, are you there?
Yes, good morning. The Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month and the Bicycle Commuter Month proclamations are included. We've invited the Asian Pacific Islander Coalition, South Puget Sound Chapter, and Duncan Green to be present today. And the draft proclamations for EMS Week and Military Appreciation Month are included as well.
Yep, okay. Had a flurry of proclamations, but looks like they slowed down a little bit after this week. Any questions for Amy on proclamations?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. And then we go to item 6, advisory boards and commissions. Back to Amy.
Yes, I am just circling back this morning on the applications here. So with your concurrence, we will bring the appointments of Ms. McClure for the Ag Committee and Diane Pest for the Board of Equalization for formal appointment next week, unless I receive other direction.
Okay. Any comments on questions on that proposal from Amy to bring those two forward next week?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll bring those items on your consent agenda then for Ms. McClure and Mr. Post.
And I see on the second page of the packet, just for the board's information, it looks like you created a new summary sheet there. Could you elaborate on what?
This was just from the planning session. I thought we would just include this in your packet.
Okay.
I
So,
don't see it.
so just so I understand it, like, okay, Agriculture Advisory Committee, seat 7. What does the 7 mean?
And that is the seat.
Like
So-
they have a designated number of the seats?
Yes.
Okay, so like for the Fair Board, those are particularly numbered seats, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19?
Yes. Yeah, the seats listed on the roster.
Okay.
For the advisor committee, isn't there non-farmer members as well?
She's
There
talking
are.
about vacancies. These are vacancies.
So there's 7 vacancies?
No, it is seat 7.
Okay.
The position is a farmer
Number
position.
7. That's why I was confused, because we don't usually, we've never seen the numbers of the seats listed before. So that's what I was asking
Okay,
about.
yeah,
So
thank you.
seat number 7 is vacant and it's a farmer seat.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, this is nice and concise, so I appreciate that. Okay, then we'll move on to PIO check-in, item 7.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I just have one update for you. I've been working a lot with the Regional Housing Council communications team over the last week, well, a couple weeks. And tomorrow I'll be presenting the components of the draft communications plan to the Regional Housing Council. And hopefully that will be approved and we can start moving forward with that. Pending any questions, that's what I have for you today.
No question.
No, sir.
Okay, none from Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Mejia, anything for Megan on anything? Public
sir.
information related. Okay, thank you, Megan. Legislative update from County Manager.
Thank you, Commissioners. This perhaps is going to be the last update that I will provide to the board this year, since the legislative session has ended. And or maybe I can come back next year to give you highlights of the budget when that approves a state budget. They might pertain to the county. So I'm not going to walk you through each one of those bills. What I'm going to be highlighting is those bills that have soon become law. And those are not inclusive. Those are the bills that perhaps the board was interested in tracking. Page 1, House Bill 10616, making Juneteenth a legal holiday. And Maria Ponte, our HR director, will bring a proposal when this becomes law for you to consider next year. House Bill 1061 does concern of eligible development disability services who are expected to exit the child welfare system. That's a coordination with WASAC. House Bill 1068, accepting election security information from public records. That's a good bill. Our county auditor was supporting that and championed that bill, by the way. House Bill 1069, consider local government fiscal flexibility. That is become to law, and I believe has a sunset date of December 2023. They will allow it for a little bit of supplanting and some specific funds and use for operations. So that's it has an end date. House Bill.
Before you leave that one, has anybody, maybe Robin knows about it, but I know that this was kind of a very much scaled back version of a previous proposals from previous years. And I'm just wondering if what we're left, what survived looks like it's going to pass into law. And I know it's like 2 years. I'm just wondering if it's of any use to us. Are there provisions in there that we will make use of? Or do they get kind of watered down to where it's not very useful to us?
So it is extremely watered down, in my opinion. And there is a possibility that some of the flexibility in REIT will benefit us. I have to take a look at exactly what passed, but some of the things in the original version that would have been extremely useful are no longer here.
Okay. Well, if you see a way that it's useful, can you just report that back to the board?
Sure.
Just so I have a sense of that, and because like when we're discussing this at WASAC, it's helpful for me to know, give feedback. So appreciate it. Okay, go ahead, Ramiro.
Yeah, and this particular bill include flexibility for the criminal justice sales tax, or the criminal justice account. Some of the account doesn't have some of those. The chemical dependency and mental health treatment, the lodging tax, the real estate excise tax, property tax levies, and utility liens. But again, as I agree with Robin, it has been somewhat of very watered down, that flexibility. But that will be a good opportunity for the board to talk when you consider the 2022-2023 budget. Absolutely. The next bill that I'd like to highlight is on page 2, and that is an item that you have been tracking. You discussed this on your planning session. That is the House Bill 11552, and that is related to the public health districts and public health makeup, as well as the foundational public health funding. House Bill 1167. Thumbs up. The governor has assigned, and we're going to be having a new Superior Court judge in Thurston County coming up. And moving to next page, House Bill 1271, ensuring continuity of operations in the offices of county elected officials during the current COVID-19 pandemic and future health crisis. We have to see the details of that a little more in later on. And House Bill 1309, that's concerning the dates of the certification of the levies. You heard that from Robin in the past. You know, is good intent, but that really is not going to make a big impact as to how we process during the budget and certify the levies by moving the date a couple of weeks. House Bill 1331. Concerning early learning facilities of impact fees, as you may recall, there may be an exception for impact fees if there are facilities there related to the early learning associated with this particular impact fees. House Bill 1335, The concerned review and property owners' notification of recorded documents with unlawful racial restrictions. Just emphasizing, I believe, some of the actions the board has taken to address similar issues here in Thurston County. House Bill 1348, provide medical assistance to incarcerated person. This particular bill allows to ask for, I believe, Medicaid to allow inmates to be covered within the 6 months of incarceration, because right now they do not have access to Medicaid under those conditions. So this is helpful. Whether that is really given as the option, but at least this bill puts in the position to appeal to Medicaid. Senate Bill 5013 concerning the local redistricting deadlines. We briefed you on a couple of occasions to what this bill is going to do. But we'll see if actually it's going to benefiting or not. Everything is going to depend on when the Census Bureau will release the actual 2020 census data, which is still having a deadline date of September 30th, 2020. That's when they're going to be releasing the data officially. So we're working on that. Moving on to next page, on page 5, Senate Bill 5126, concerning the Washington Climate Commitment Act. We just have to see what elements of that bill will be impacting or perhaps benefiting the Thurston County. And the last page, page 6, the last bill that I want to highlight before you, Senate Bill 5383, which authorized a public utility district to provide retail telecommunication services in unserved areas under certain restrictions. And that's really to address broadband in rural areas of the county. I haven't not got the chance to see the details of this bill, how it has finalized, but certainly we'll keep you posted as we move along on this. That's all I have on that report.
Questions for the county manager before we move off? Commissioner Mejia?
No, it was a full legislative session. That's for sure.
Commissioner Edwards?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then let's tackle C-PACER before we take our recess.
Yeah, thank you, sir. C-PACER, this is the commercial application step process. It is really goes back to a few briefings, particularly to Commissioner Moser, Commissioner Edwards. I know Commissioner Mejia just got a formal briefing on April 14th. And what it does is this particular program is to allow commercial properties to access funding to do improvements that will allow them to reduce the carbon footprint of their facilities. You went through and you heard some of the benefits of this particular effort, including some of perspective, some of the lenders at the last meeting. So you have received a letter from the Thurston Regional Planning Council, TRPC, and that letter is included in your packet, urging the board to go ahead and moving forward and authorizing or passing an ordinance establishing the C-PACER program in Thurston County. Also, we have received so far 26 emails from citizens in our email box. They also are urging the board to consider implementing the C-PACER program in Thurston County. So at this point, I will ask the board to provide direction, and the direction will be for staff to come back, if the board is in agreement, for staff to come back with a formal ordinance for you to formally establish that program in Thurston County. That will be the next step if the board would like to continue on this process. Jenica Machado is here, our Economic Development Manager for the county. She has been involved in coordinating the C-PACER for the last few months, and she's available to answer any questions as well.
Okay, first I'll ask for questions, and then we can give thumbs up or down for proceeding, but I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
No, I do not have any questions on this in regards to this issue.
Edwards.
Yes. What was the feeling from the Economic Development Council on this particular issue, or was it discussed?
We did not connect with the EDC for their official position on this program.
And if this is a good deal, and I understand that it's being looked at a couple of counties, why isn't this some kind of a statewide proposal that would give this authority rather than trying to do it on individual countywide basis?
I think the answer is because the state did authorize us, and counties are the ones that record the documents and manage property transactions. So, I mean, the state did take action to authorize counties to move forward, but.
So this is a statewide program then? It just hasn't been adopted by other counties?
That's my understanding. This was a product of last year's legislative session.
Okay, and then during our presentation, there was quite a difference in the percentage allowed to be charged, the interest rate, I guess, allowed to be charged. And I didn't get a good understanding of that. It seemed like if I was a banker, I'd be very much in favor of this, but I don't know how that fits in with the building owners and such. Any more information on that?
I don't have any additional information from the technical experts, but if you would like some, I can certainly follow up with them to provide more clarity on that.
Okay, thank you. That'll do for now.
I guess I would just say that we did get a letter from the director of the Regional Planning Council, and I think his letter kind of hits it on the head in terms of summarizing the benefit. It's a financing tool, and it uses a incentive and market-based approach, which is favored by the building community in order to try to accelerate the rate of energy efficiency and renewable energy upgrades. I mean, it's a modest step, as we heard from the experts at our briefing. They wouldn't expect us to see more than a small handful of applications at the beginning, and then it kind of builds steam, I think, over time. But it's from my perspective, there's no reason not to give ourselves this tool. So I guess go ahead, County Manager.
So just to clarify, if the board decides to move forward on this particular program, this is not an imposition by all the commercial properties. This particular proposal allows for a tool for them to access that. So it's really an allowance in a way to access funding to do any type of improvements on their facilities. Just want to clarify for to the benefit of the public that if the board continues with this process, is not going to be an imposition. It's just an allowance.
Yeah, it makes the financing more attractive for energy upgrades, and if you want to take advantage of it, hopefully it will incentivize some projects that wouldn't be done otherwise. So I guess I've been clear. I'm a thumbs up to move this forward. I guess I need to go around the horn here and see if we've got 2 or 3 thumbs for moving this forward. Commissioner Mejia?
I'm ready to move forward on this.
Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Okay, 3 thumbs, it sounds like.
Thank you. So the next, you will see a formal resolution. Give us some time to work through the details. And that will give you yet another opportunity to discuss among yourselves before you formally consider taking an action. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. 10:15, we'll break till 10:30, and we'll pick up with the item 10 on the morning's agenda, which is annexations. Ready?
3, 2, 1, go ahead, sir.
All right. We're back from recess for our Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session, April 27th. And we are left off with the commissioner items, several listed out here. The first one is proposed annexations from the city of Lacey. Two in particular. The first one, Capital City Estates / Chambers Estates.
Yep. Thank you, commissioners. In this particular annexation was discussed at a joint meeting with the city of Lacey that you had a couple of weeks ago. And the city of Lacey gave you a perspective as to what was coming. I have attached in your packet a little more information related to this particular annexation. This is a petition method. It is under RCW 35A.14.120. The total acres as a result of this annexation is 288 acres. And they have an assessed value of $139,344. So you may recall the city of Lacey stated they secure a power of attorney from the majority of the citizens associated with this particular annexation. That particular total of power of attorneys is equates to 73.43 acres, which is the majority of the dwellings associated with this particular annexation, which the assessed value of those who have signed the power of attorney is $99,788. And for the acres that have not signed a power of attorney, remember here's a golf course, is 205 acres, and the assessed value is $34,234. If you flip back to the packet, give you a graphical representation as to where this location is at. And as you can probably see, this really is eliminating an island. An island the city of Lacey has tried to annex for quite some time. And in fact, they are going through a major capital improvement project to extend sewer lines into this particular neighborhood. So we received this notice from the the clerk of the Boundary Review Board, and that email is attached to your packet. And there is a deadline of providing feedback on June 4th, 2021 by 4:30 in the afternoon. My particular perspective, this is something that is procedural in a way. The city of Lacey is committed to this annexation, but if you have any questions related to this annexation or you need additional information, I'll be more than happy to do so. Go ahead, sir.
So if the board will indulge, I'm well familiar with the, if we could look at the map that's in the packet. I'm well familiar with the Capital City golf course piece because that's the whole sewer project and the petition and all the signatures and stuff. But if you look at the map, there's across Rainier Road, there's another neighborhood, this little wing that sticks off, called Chambers.
Yes.
Estates. That's a different neighborhood on 1 acre lots, 47. I've received email from the Homeowners Association leadership and asking us to oppose this. They do not want to be annexed into Lacey. They're not part of the sewer project. They're not petitioning for this. It kind of sticks out there. I have not talked to the city. I do not remember this coming up with the city of Lacey, why this piece is included. There may be an excellent reason. This is breaking information from my perspective. I just got this yesterday. And I can forward the email to the county manager so that he can look at it and maybe discuss it with Lacey. I'd like to know more about why that piece is being included. Because from what I've got here from the email I got is from the vice president of the Homeowners Association, but he represents that he and the president have both spoken to their community and they have no desire to be part of this annexation. So just FYI, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If you can share that email with me, that will be great.
Okay. I didn't respond to the citizen because I knew this briefing was coming today, and I wanted to learn a little more about it before I reached out. But I just forwarded that to you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Could we have a little follow-up on that, sir?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Maybe the county manager knows the answer. Yeah, I had originally thought when we were briefed about this originally, that this was all part of one community, I guess, if you will. And I guess what I'm hearing now is that this one particular area, it has nothing to do with the golf course side of the road. Is that what I'm hearing?
So, Commissioner, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can quote from this email, Commissioner. He says, "We are a totally different community across Rainier Road from Capitol. We have large lots, have never had septic problems like Capitol has, which are 400 houses on postage stamp lots. We are an airstrip community with large lots of an average of 1 acre."
On this map, Commissioner?
Yes, I see that. Well, I guess then where I'm going with this is where it talks about the power of attorney and, you know, the acreage and assessed value. I mean, so none of them have signed off on this, but yet they're being included in. Is that how is that how Lacey's trying to get around the intent of the law, I guess, is by doing that? By including them and getting the majority of the folks in the golf course side bought off on it. I don't know if they have individually bought off, but it sounds like they've signed off on that annexation. I had no idea that this was being included without this group's approval. So I really do have some concerns here now.
Yeah, I have the same questions. I just didn't, it's complicated. There's 3 or 4 different ways to go about this. And this petition method, I don't know how it applied to this other neighborhood, because that was never part of this.
So this is Chambers Estates has no involvement whatsoever in this, it sounds like.
Involvement, they're not part of the sewer plan.
Well, no, I mean, no power of, looking at it, no power of attorney or anything they didn't sign off on. But they're getting lumped in here because in total, the valuation, is that what's going on here?
I don't know. Maybe I can follow up with the city of Lacey to answer that question. But I ventured to state it's just closing the island, and that's really, if you see the map, that is closing the island on that map. I don't think there's any related to the acreage from my perspective. So it really, if you see the map that I provided to you, and gives you a little bit of graphical information as to what the city of Lacey is and the Lacey UGA. So if just the golf course, then it will remain that little piece as an island. And I believe the Board of County Commissioners have taken an affirmative action to eliminate those islands within the UGA. And I believe that is the reason as to why the city of Lacey is included in this particular neighborhood. But I can certainly reach out to the city manager to give more perspective. But I don't think it's related to the acreage. And in this case, it's already developed property. There is already, really, it's not if I said an incentive by the city of Lacey, perhaps, other than, I believe, eliminating the islands that we have in the UGA. But again, that's just a speculation from my part. And certainly I can follow up with the city manager for additional conversation.
I guess I would appreciate that, mainly because I think this is kind of being slipped in under the radar, so to speak, it sounds like, because I know the folks from the golf course, there were several reasons, and I agree with you on the island end of things, but I don't think the intent when we were talking about that some years ago was to force a group that was, you know, completely opposed to it to do something they didn't want to do. It was just that when possible, we don't want to have islands, and especially creating islands that were retail outlet. That was the big bugaboo at the time, really, that if they're going to take something, they got to take it all, good with the bad. And it looks like this small piece is being slipped in. I don't know. That's the way it looks like to me. I have not talked to these folks. I appreciate the chair bringing this up, because I was not aware that there was a group opposed to this.
So this map is instructive. Ramiro, can I ask a question about it?
Please do. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the map. This map?
Yeah.
So are you telling, so over on the right side of the green is, you know, a massive Lacey UGA area.
Yeah, and the second annexation is in that area.
And okay, but this little area that's proposed annexation, are you saying that there's no Lacey, like that would completely, there's no other UGA identified around the bottom of that green city limits of Lacey? Is that accurate?
Yeah, in that area that you see, the Lacey UGA, I think they're just, my speculation is just like to want to eliminate the island. Because if they were going with the Capitol Golf Course, that little piece of this development will remain in an unincorporated area.
Yeah, I mean, I see completely why it's in there now, because I didn't realize that there was no UGA.
Yeah, there is no. So it's really, as a result, it will have, yeah, if this particular development is out of the annexation, 3 sides of this development will be within the city of Lacey. I mean, the boundaries.
The fourth side would be the county without, and no side would be next to Lacey UGA. Right. So it would be a Lacey UGA island in a sense. Although, you know, it could be annexed later, but I see why it's logical to just, if you're going to take that bigger chunk, not to leave that last chunk. Yeah, that's interesting. That pretty much, that just snuffs out the whole UGA area in that whole southern part of Lacey. So the southeast, or southwestern part of Lacey. Commissioner Mejia, do you have any questions here? I saw Josh popped up and then popped out. I don't know if you had something to add as well.
No questions. I would like to see the letter that you got sent, though. Once you send it to Ramiro, if Ramiro can send it to us, I would appreciate that.
Very good. Josh, anything to add here? You know, any more than you do?
My pop-in was covered by the county manager's statement.
Okay.
One other thing, possibly.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I don't know that it's going to be an island as much as it's going to be a peninsula.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a difference in terminology, because it would remain part of the unincorporated area of the county. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, you can probably.
I mean, and connected to the rest of the unincorporated area.
So it's still going to be a small piece of.
Yes, it'll be a little piece, but it'll be a peninsula rather than completely surrounded.
So
True, but as a UGA designation, it's an island, because it wouldn't have any UGA anywhere around it.
Yeah, I guess that's right. It's just that, boy, I do not, I mean, right off the bat, it makes me real uncomfortable if that whole community is not connected at all with the golf course, and they adamantly don't want this at this time. Then I think it takes a little bit more communication, I guess, with that group to explain the reasons why and everything else that goes with that. So, I mean, initially, I'd like to see that letter as well that Commissioner Mejia asked for.
So in terms of a process, I will reach out to the city of Lacey to get additional perspective as to why they included this particular area. But that's just one of the role of the Board of County Commissioners. You're not approving an annexation. If you like, what you do is you invoke jurisdiction on a proposed annexation. And by invoking jurisdiction, then allows the Boundary Review Board to revise the boundaries if that is the case. So I just want to clarify, the board is not approving or accepting this annexation. There is a process. And that is why we have the Boundary Review Board. So if the board decides to go a different direction than the City of Lacey proposal, then it will be the invoking jurisdiction type of approach that we will send a letter to the Boundary Review Board for their review. So I just want to clarify a little bit more of the process. There is not accepting or approving any annexation by the board.
Could I comment, sir?
Yep.
I guess my concern is this looks like we got snookered. I guess that's my feeling right off the top. I thought it was all one large golf course community being annexed in, and all the issues had been addressed. It looks like this one small area of Chambers Estates has no interest in doing this. And if we endorse this, that's the same as advocating for it. I think we're not advocating for those citizens by any stretch of the imagination. If they don't want it, I definitely want them to have a say. And I'm wondering, were they even contacted and involved that we're getting this late notice?
Those are like, my request to the county manager, is to check with Lacey on, I know why it's included. It's perfectly
I do too.
Thing for them to do, but I would like to know what input they got from that community. Can they tell us that, yeah, that community didn't want it, but we think it's the right thing? And I just want to know that. Or did we didn't even contact them? We have no interest in what they care about. Or, what's the status of Lacey's communication and contact with this neighborhood, so that we're not reinventing the wheel in terms of trying to figure out. It's not our job necessarily to figure that out, but I'm sure Lacey's had contact with that neighborhood. I got this from, I think there was, I got this, this citizen that reached out to me, this homeowner association, was directed to me by a Lacey City Council member. So I know there was a discussion in the Lacey City Council about whether to include this neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I'd like to hear from the Lacey about that.
Yeah, and you're right. When the City of Lacey Council discussed this annexation, which included that, and I think they held a public hearing, whether they proactively reach out to those individuals affected in this additional annexation, I don't know. But Josh and I will reach out to the City of Lacey to give you additional perspective. Okay, Josh, anything to add on this?
I think I'd like to just quickly acknowledge, first, Romero, thank you for your statement on the process and the board's available actions. I'd also like to just take us back a little bit and acknowledge the success in partnership with Lacey. I think that the presumption is correct that they're trying to eliminate a potential island. And then secondly, the timing that we have to have this very discussion to suss out some of the details from the neighborhood and other people that might be interested. This is longer than we've had in the past to have these conversations. So I would, from our perspective in CPED, this is a success in both communication and partnership and substance with the City of Lacey in the annexation process.
I guess I might have a question for Josh, sir.
Yes, sir.
Josh, were you aware this was a community that did not want to be annexed and included in this?
No, this information that Commissioner Mitzer brought forward was not sent to me by this group.
So, during these discussions that this moved forward and got to the point we're at today, it's catching you off guard as well. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, whenever you learn new information, that's the first time you learn it.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to see that letter, and maybe I'd have communication with that group myself.
And also, I think that looking at the bigger picture, on the east side of that one little area that would create essentially what you refer to as the peninsula is the Oli UGA.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So it is essentially an island where you're creating, yeah. So, and yeah, we'll get additional information from the city of Lacey.
Well, that was my question. So I want to see this map. I like this map. It's real simple, but I want to see both UGAs listed on it, because that's what I was asking. The west side of this neighborhood shows white. I just thought that was unincorporated county, but Josh, you're saying that's only UGA. So really, it's even a little more of an island than it would even make even a little more of an island than we thought, than we were talking about before. So that would be useful to have just all the UGAs on this.
And again, we appreciate the partnership with Lacey, and we'll be in contact.
Perfect. Okay, well, there's another one, right?
And just to be in terms of the steps, this is very procedural steps that we take. And we received the notice from the Boundary Review Board Chief Clerk last Tuesday, April 20th. And I'm bringing this as soon as feasible for your consideration. So there is it's procedural, a lot of process that goes in place as to how a petition method goes through it, the City of Lacey Council involvement. Now is here for all the stakeholders, including the Board of County Commissioners, to provide a perspective. But again, in this, you're not in the position to approve or disapprove an annexation. You're in the position to invoke your jurisdiction and ask the Boundary Review Board to revise the proposed annexation, if that is the desire of the board. So similar to what we did on the stormwater annexation, as you well aware of that one. The board invoked jurisdiction. In that particular case, the board asked for additional annexation neighborhoods. It was the reverse. So, that's within your purview, obviously. So I'll follow up with the City of Lacey, and hopefully next week I can bring this item back again for your further consideration.
And I guess we'll get that letter. Is that what I'm hearing? So
I've already forwarded it to the county manager. So
okay, good enough. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go to the second one, Moser, 54th Avenue.
Yeah, this is, for some reason, this has a different deadline, which is Friday 7th, 2021. And this is a 9.91 acres, has an assessed value of $222,000. And this is a rectangular piece. And if you go to the maps, and again, it's on using the same UGA map, is on that end, is highlighted in red, if you see this map. There is not development there. There's some encumbrance in terms of on the northwest corner with some wetlands. And do you have, if you want additional information, you like to take a different perspective, it's all your options available to you today.
This is a family asking for this, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a petition method. It's a single owner in this case.
Yeah, I mean, if they want it, it's okay with me.
Mr. Mejia, any questions on this one?
No, sir.
And this is really eliminating an island, right?
Well, I think it's taken, if you see the other really eliminates the island. And this one, you see the red there, no quite.
Oh.
Kind of like reducing the size of an inlet.
Yeah, reducing the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's logic to it in terms of boundaries. So yeah, I don't have any issue with that.
So I hear no concerns, so then no response is necessary, just to be clear. So we'll, let me make some notes.
Okay. Should we move anything to wrap up the annexation issue for today? Can we move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, next item under commissioners' items is historic commission letter.
Yeah, you received this letter from the Historic Commission, and so I think they give you a perspective in terms of how successful it has been. The Water, Woods, and Prairies book, and as you may recall, you issue a grant to distribute those books, and based on their perspective, they have received additional feedback and increased demands and interest on going through a reprint of this particular book. So they're proposing the following reprint of 500 softbound books, 250 hardbound books, in a layout of an ebook presence. The total price is $17,646.79 plus $838 for rights to produce the photographs. So in this letter, I don't know if the Historic Commission is asking for the board to consider supporting this, so it's a little bit ambiguous as to what the request seems to me is an FYI, but some also comes across like a request. Jeremy, do you have any perspective on this?
Yes, sir. So the Historic Commission is requesting that the board utilize some of the Historic Preservation Fund to publish more books and then distribute them to another nonprofit for further sales and fundraising for those nonprofit organizations.
So is that part of the application process that we go through every year on request, or this just, because there is a process as to how the board consider applications to allocate funds, right? Are they requesting outside of this process, or?
Yes, sir. They're requesting this outside of the normal heritage grant process that we do on an annual basis. And they're doing this so that they can get more of the historic books out to the public, and then also assist nonprofit organizations in their fundraising. And in fact, what this would do would end up being likely an amendment to the Olympia Historical Society contract for selling the books and distributing the books in the community, to add the books to, one, pay for publishing them, and then two, add the books to our existing contract with them if they're amenable to that.
Yeah, and that sounds a little bit of unusual process, because usually it's a formal request. So that application has to be vetted before a recommendation comes to the board. So
from CPED's perspective, we appreciate the volunteer and the passion of the volunteers on this commission. We did not request this letter be sent to the commissioners. We were made aware of it when you received it, and we will continue to review and engage with the commission to follow what process as the board relays. But the board has asked in the past that we make sure and advertise at every moment this great historical book. So that's why I'm holding it up all this time.
I have a question.
Sorry.
So when the book was printed the first time, I mean, did they come through the board to us for those funds? How did that work the first time around?
So the board specifically allocated funding to publish the book. The last publishing resulted in 494 copies being printed at a cost of just under $15,000. The board then proceeded to grant 463 copies of the book to the Olympia Historical Society and Bigelow House Museum to distribute those in the community and to sell them as a fundraising effort for OHS, BHM, and other organizations. They did distribute quite a number of copies to other heritage programs in the county to sell and raise funds.
And the way that we left it with the Board of County Commissioners last time was, we'll see how the distribution goes and then come back to you in the normal process for a request for reprinting. And this is the commissioner, the Heritage Commission, saying we'd like to go faster.
And may I add something, Josh?
Please.
And so they did that because of the record time that the book sold out. It sold out in approximately 6 weeks or less. And there's still some demand out there, and there's still some critical press that is in support of the book. I mean, there's been several articles recently on it.
I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
I guess maybe this is out of sequence a little bit, this request, but are we just going to be loaning them the money to do this and then they're going to recover it? I mean, is that kind of what they're asking right now?
No.
No. They just want the money. What happens when the money is collected at the other end when they sell them? Where does that money go?
So it's either Robert or Jeremy. Who wants to take the
that is a good segue because it was a large conversation last year related to gifting of public funds,
right,
related to this particular distribution. And that is how the board decided to go ahead and just issue as a matter of a grant, granting those books, and whatever those organizations do with the grant, it really is up to them. So that brings a good conversation. Maybe you can take a couple of minutes, Jeremy, to maybe remind the two board members and give additional perspective to Commissioner Mejia on that discussion that occurred last year related to specifically what Commissioner Ed was asking is we issue money and what happens with the revenues when they sold those books, right?
Yes, sir. So with the grant of the physical books to the organizations, we also signed a contract with them that any of the proceeds from the book sales would then have to be used to further historic preservation and education within Thurston County, which is in keeping with the mission of the overall fund and the auditor fee authorization in state law. So they would essentially use the funding as they would, say, a heritage grant that they receive to further that historic preservation education, and further any organizations that they pass the books on to would also have to agree to do the same thing and spend the money on their individual historic preservation programs. And we have not received the final report from the Olympia Historical Society. We're still waiting on that, but we have seen some preliminary reporting from them on their distribution and fundraising. And so the process that we got to it is we did end up publishing the books, and we had to work on a method of distributing those books to the community, largely because the county was not set up to do retail sale of books. And so we developed a book grant to distribute those to the community after we had paid to publish them.
When is this request, when would this normally come in a couple of months? For the budget cycle for 22, is that when it would come in?
Jeremy, can you explain the process of the applications for the Heritage Grant, the timing of that? Are we going to be holding a grant process this year?
Yes, sir. We are going to be holding a grant process this year for the typical Heritage Program grants. The book grant was done separately from that to handle the distribution of the books that the county had published. And previously the county had set aside specific funding for it. What I would hope to do is come to the Board of County Commissioners for the Historic Commission's request as part of the 2022 budget cycle. I believe the Historic Commission had felt, obviously in this letter, that they had desired to see the books published sooner, as Josh said earlier.
I guess from my perspective, I'm kind of, I don't want to throw cold water on their success story, I guess, is kind of where I'm coming from. And if we can fit it in, because government does move so doggone slow into our normal cycle, which sounds like it's just a few months away, that might be a better way to go, because I don't want to get in trouble with doing something, you know, out of whack, I guess. But I'm all in favor of helping them accomplish this mission. I think it's good stuff, but I want to do it right. That's my only concern. So I don't know when that historical grant might come up, but it comes up sometime during the summer, I thought.
Is this dedicated historic preservation fund that's referred to in the letter the same pot of money we're talking about that we do our heritage grants from?
Yes, sir.
And I thought those grants were limited to $5,000 based on what we did last year.
It's at the board's discretion.
Okay, so, but back when the $15,000 was allocated for the first printing, did that go through the heritage grant application process, or was that done outside the normal process?
Go for it, Jeremy.
If I remember correctly, is I wasn't leading this with working with the Historic Commission at the time, but if I remember correctly, the board made a specific allocation in its annual budget for publishing the book. And it was not done as part of the Heritage Grant Program.
So if we did that, it wouldn't be doing something that we hadn't done before, but how would that affect the fund balance there in terms of what money is available for other applications for next year? I mean, would that clean out that fund, or is there $100,000 sitting there, or Robin?
No.
So if I may jump in at this point, this fund has a significant fund balance. We ended 2020 with approximately $285,000 in the bank. We have been spending on average about $50,000 a year. This year in your budget, you have in the past budgeted approximately $30,000 for grants. And because of the significant amount of money in the fund, this year the board appropriated $60,000 for the community projects. If you should decide to approve this out of cycle, and what I'm talking about here is out of cycle with your normal grant process, it would still leave more money for grant awards than you've awarded in the past.
Could we decide to work this out of cycle? Because it seems on some of these funds that where we maintain an excessive amount, I don't know what the funding source is offhand right now, but we end up actually getting in trouble if we're hoarding. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but too much money in the fund, so to speak.
The revenue is a document recording fee. And one of the reasons you have so much money sitting in this fund is because of the volume of documents that the auditor has been recording has gone up tremendously in the last 2 years. So it's not like you've been sitting on a lot of money, but you happen to have a lot of money in this fund.
I guess, okay.
What I'm saying is that this would fit within your current appropriation.
And we'd have the authority to do this if it's not in some budget plan or something like that? I mean, we have some flexibility here.
It fits quite nicely under the umbrella of a community project and would fit, you know, what would be out of cycle is it would not be competing with all the other requests that you'll receive later this year.
And that was where we left it with the board when we did this final approval, was to try and align with that cycle. Just because we hadn't done it before, this was that attempt. But still, as Robin states, it's at the board's purview to take whatever direction they make.
I guess
There's plenty of money in this fund.
My initial thought is that while these people are enthused about this project, and it sounds like they put a lot of work into it for sure, and I'm kind of inclined to step outside the normal scheme of things, if you will, and reward them for doing such a good job. And it's turned out the sale of the book is obviously something the community wants. So why do we have to be so iron-fisted? Why can't we be a little flexible and reward a group that is out there working hard to do their thing? So that's where I'm at, and I'd like to do it sooner rather than later, if it was up to me.
All right. Well, I think I'm with you, Commissioner. The financial picture is healthy, and this is a project we've committed to, the county's invested in, and like we were saying, it's been successful. Let's not impede that success if we can help it. And what could be more central to the mission of the Thurston County Historic Commission than a book about Thurston County history?
Yeah.
It's so squarely central to what this is all about. And if people are buying this and reading it, we couldn't do anything better to promote Thurston County history than promoting Thurston County history.
Yes.
In such a direct fashion. So that's where I'm at too, Commissioner Mejia.
No, I'm in complete agreement as well. I mean, this is a volunteer group, and the fact that they are going above and the book is selling, that's always a good thing. So.
Okay.
And this does align with where the board left it. We just didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't know it was going to be hotcakes. So
hotcakes.
All right. Well, we got.
So you want to entertain this request as soon as feasible. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Jeremy, help me draft a response letter. Let him know, and we'll process that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, we're doing well with time. So 11:13, we have next item is an executive session, it looks like. I don't know what the proposed time frame is for that. I'm hoping I have one commissioner item that I need addressed today. So hopefully we'll have time at the back end of the executive session.
Maybe I flip the order, having your commissioner items, and then utilize the rest of the time for your executive session and the CDBG conversation.
All right. So we'll just hit any sort of time-sensitive commissioner items here before we go into executive session. So I'll start with Commissioner Mejia.
Mine can wait until Thursday.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards.
I'm good.
Okay. Mine might be quick. In the wake of our joint work session with the City of Lacey, I was contacted by the mayor, who had some follow-up discussions with citizens who are watching our joint work session, and an idea that has been proposed in the past, discussed. He wanted to bring back to the Board of County Commissioners consideration. The idea would be to have some discussions about permitting within, let's say, a finite area, and I think the identified area from their staff would be, say, the Martin Way corridor. Whether or not there would be an advantage to having the UGA permitting done by the City of Lacey through some sort of MOU between the two jurisdictions. And the question for us is whether we would agree to have staff sort of have a conversation about what the obstacles to that might be and what the advantages might be or disadvantages. I told the mayor of Lacey that I didn't want to respond to that until I talked to the county manager and Josh at CPED about whether or not that would be feasible. I've had both of those conversations. They both feel that a conversation could be fruitful. So before I responded back, I wanted to ask the board whether or not the board would have concurrence of our staffs having a conversation about a new approach there to try to facilitate our permitting and consistency. Even though we're working hard on our joint plans, they're not done. And even if they were done, it's still cumbersome to have two jurisdictions involved. And so anyway, there's pros and cons, but would the board be interested in having staff explore the advantages or disadvantages of a pilot approach to an MOU?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I figured it would be that would be the response. So I'd ask, I guess, I'll just let you know that I'll respond with same to the mayor of Lacey, and then Ramiro, you've got sort of board concurrence that those conversations could happen.
Yeah, we'll work through it. And just as a matter of clarification, this is an opportunity to partner with the city of Lacey. And if we get to a point of a pilot project in Martin Way where they can provide the review, that doesn't mean they have to obey by the county regulation. It's just to make sure that is the case, because it will be in the UGA. So that will be the task, is to make sure the county code and county regulation is followed. So the intent is not to give away that. Just want to be clear, because we cannot.
Okay, so we're moving into an executive session regarding CDBG funds agreement renewal. And I see Ms. Petrich is here.
Yep.
I'll do the announcement. This is a executive session. Oh, go ahead.
Commissioner, first of all, there is two parts of this conversation. One is it needs to have a conversation in open public as to the process. And I'm prepared to walk you through this. And there's some elements within that process that you need to hear in an executive session. So there's two elements on that. So if I may, let me begin by stating that it is time again to renew the agreements that we have with City of Lacey, Tumwater, Yelm, Tenino, Rainier, and Bucota related to the distribution of the CDBG funding. So typically, the Housing and Urban Development HUD issues notices each year to make sure that we go through the process of meeting those deadlines. We have not received that notice yet, but I think we'll continue to approach as if we have received that already. So, and this is a little bit of a sense of urgency. There are two elements on this, as you may recall. The City of Lacey is an urban jurisdiction itself. So they have the option to receive direct allocation from CDBG for them to operate however they see fit, the distribution of the CDBG fund. That is the approach, the same approach the city of Olympia has. And in the last cycle, the city of Lacey has agreed to circulate that, meaning the county will take the administrative role. And then we take every other year, they allocate all the funding of the CDBG I believe in the region, and they allocate within the city, and then moves to the city of Tumwater, and then moves to what we call is the South County cities, which the county represents within that process. The next step in the process is for the county with the signature of the chair of the board to send that notification to the cities. We're in the process of beginning this conversation. There is an interlocal agreement that needs to put in place, and also there needs a memorandum of understanding as to how we're going to be managing this process. I believe this year is, remind me, Tom, whose turn is this year in the CDBG process? Is it?
This year is Tumwater's turn. So Tumwater is receiving the allocation.
So Tumwater will receive that allocation, and they will go through their own request for proposals, and they will go through selecting how that allocation needs to be made based on their jurisdiction needs. Those recommendations comes to the board for a final approval and recommendation, because that is part of the process. And as you may recall, when it's time for the county and the South cities, I represent the interests of not just of the board, but also the interests of those citizens who do not live within the unincorporated areas such as Yelm, Bucota, Tenino, and Rainier. And the result of that process, there was 2 projects that was set aside to receive CDBG funding in the Rochester area, since the Rochester area met the requirements of this particular funding. So that is the overarching conversation at this point. Tom, you want to provide additional perspective on this before we get into the nitty-gritty details?
Yeah, that was a good summary. Just to add a little bit. So this is a interlocal agreement, an MOU that is renewed every 3 years. So we're on that 3-year cycle. So this has gone back from 2013. So the last cycle was 2019, 2020, and 21. So it's time to renew the 3-year cycle for the 22, 23, and 24 years. And so that is what this process is. And so this letter essentially gives the opportunity for the jurisdictions to opt out of our urban county agreement is what it is. And so this is the opportunity. If they opt in, then they're in this agreement for the next 3 years. We renew it every 3 years. So this is their opportunity if they wanted to go off on their own for the city of Lacey. The time pressure that the county manager referenced is we need to submit this documentation to HUD so everything is approved before the start of our new program year for 2022. So we're looking to get final approval from the jurisdictions to return assigned interlocal to us by mid-June is the time frame that we need to meet.
So with the concurrence of the board, we will prepare those letters and for the chair of the board to sign those letters. So we provide a formal notification to the cities. And again, the nuance on this is the city of Lacey has the option to opt out. The city of Tumwater doesn't qualify as an urban jurisdiction because of the population threshold. Just to be clear, the city of Lacey is the only jurisdiction who can opt out. And the letter to the city of Lacey will be that. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, just a point of clarity. So city of Lacey can opt out and receive an entitlement allocation every year.
Right.
The other cities could choose to opt out. They would not then if they decided to opt out, then they would go under the balance of state and they would have to apply to the state for CDBG money. So they could theoretically opt out of being part of our urban consortium, but then they would just fall under the balance of state and would need to compete with other jurisdictions that apply to the state. So
thanks for the clarification, Robin.
Isn't there a minimum population that the consortium needs to reach to be able to opt in and have a direct allocation from the feds?
So yeah, we would still meet that allocation because and I don't know all the subtleties of the rules, but even if Lacey opt out, we would still be able to maintain our consortium status and receive an allocation. Our allocation would be reduced because Lacey's portion or share would not be counted, but we would still be able to receive an allocation.
Of course, but when we started this, 6 or 7 years ago, we needed every jurisdiction except for Olympia to be able to qualify. So that has changed now.
Yes, and my understanding, and I have not had this conversation with HUD recently, is once you qualify, you really have to drop well below that. They tend to keep you qualified unless there's real reasons for you to kind of fall below that threshold. And I believe even so with our population growth, we would be above that threshold.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So with that in mind, I would assume the board is in concurrence for us to process that notification to the different cities. Is that concurrence?
I guess so. I am curious what we're going into executive session.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a perspective on this right now as to what the reason for the executive session.
Thank you.
And the reason is there's 2 elements within the executive session is they propose changes to the MOU or interlocal agreement with the South County cities. And they will be drawn on the experience that we had on the last cycle. And also perhaps the legal financial risk the county may have based on that project that was allocated to one of those cities. And the looming deadline of expenditures. Those are the reasons why you need an executive session.
Okay.
So when you're ready, sir?
More to come, sounds like.
In the executive session, yes.
Ready to move into that, okay? So the board will be moving into executive session pursuant to RCW 4230.110.1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency, specifically as the county manager outlined to the South County ILA with respect to CDBG funds. Commissioners' action may follow.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This will probably take about 20 minutes.
Okay, estimated 20 minutes.
Thank you.